Our story begins not in the grand palaces of China, but in a smaller kingdom, Goryeo. This was medieval Korea, a land of its own proud traditions. Yet Goryeo found itself under the mighty shadow of the Mongol Yuan dynasty. Imagine a young girl born into a lower-ranking aristocratic family. Her name was Qi Jiao, later known to history as Empress Ki. She wasn't destined for greatness, not in the usual way. Her path was one trodden by many unfortunate Goryeo women. They were sent as tribute, a human tax, to the powerful Yuan court. It was a system that caused much heartbreak and resentment back in her homeland. This was the world that shaped her early years. Life in Goryeo during the 14th century was complex. The kingdom maintained its own identity, its own king, but the Yuan emperors held the real power. They could demand resources, soldiers, and cruelly women. These tribute women were chosen for their beauty or skills. They were plucked from their families, their homeland, and sent far away. Young Kai was one of these chosen girls. She was heading towards an unknown fate in a foreign land, a vast empire ruled by conquerors. Little did anyone know this girl from Goryeo carried within her a spirit that would not just survive, but astonishingly, would one day command that very empire. Arriving in Dadu must have been overwhelming for young Qi. The city was a marvel of its time, a testament to Mongol power. Grand palaces, bustling markets, and people from all corners of the empire filled its streets. But for Kai, it was also a place of confinement. She was assigned to the palace, likely starting in a very humble position. Perhaps she served tea, or attended to the needs of higher-ranking court ladies. She was a foreigner, a tribute girl, and her status would have been low. The Yuan court was a complex web of hierarchies, and she was at the bottom, looking up. Despite these initial hardships, Kai possessed qualities that set her apart. Accounts describe her as exceptionally beautiful, but beauty alone was common in the imperial palace. She also had intelligence, a quick mind, and perhaps a quiet determination. She learned. She observed. She understood the currents of power flowing around her. She was biding her time, perhaps, waiting for an opportunity, however small, to improve her circumstances. Her journey from a frightened Goryeo girl to a player in the Yuan court was a slow, careful process, built on more than just luck. The turning point in Kai's life came when she caught the attention of Emperor Toghon Temür. He was the last Mongol emperor to rule all of China. How exactly this happened is a subject of some romanticized tales. Perhaps it was her Goryeo charm, her exotic beauty, or her skill in some art form. Some stories suggest she was a tea-serving girl and her grace and intelligence impressed him during a routine duty. Whatever the specifics, she made an impression. Toghon Temür was known to be a complex ruler, often more interested in personal pleasures and pursuits like mechanics and architecture than in the tedious affairs of state. This might have made him susceptible to a captivating new presence. Once Qi had the emperor's attention, she knew how to keep it. She wasn't just beautiful, she was clever. She understood the emperor's moods and desires. She likely offered him companionship and understanding that he found lacking elsewhere. Kai, initially, was an outsider with no powerful faction behind her. This might have made her seem less threatening, more genuine in her affections to Toghon Temür. She became his confidant, a favored companion, and soon his deep affection for her became apparent to the entire court. She was playing a high-stakes game, and so far, she was winning. Section 4, From Servant to Sovereign, The Ascent of Lady Kai. Lady Kai's position at court solidified significantly when she bore Emperor Toghon Temür a son in 1338 or 1339. This son was named Ayushiridara. In any imperial dynasty, the birth of a male heir, especially to a favored concubine, was a game-changer. It gave her immense leverage and a legitimate claim to a higher status. The emperor was reportedly overjoyed. He now had a potential successor from the woman he deeply cherished. This event dramatically altered Kai's standing, elevating her from a mere favorite to the mother of a future emperor. Her ambition, once a hidden ember, now had fuel to burn brightly. The path to becoming empress, however, was not straightforward. There was already a primary empress, Danashiri, but Empress Danashiri's family became embroiled in a rebellion. When her brother was executed for treason in 1335, Danashiri herself was implicated and eventually deposed and executed. This created a vacancy. Toghon Temür wanted to make Lady Qi his new empress. But this faced enormous opposition from the Mongol court, particularly from the powerful Chancellor Bayan. They saw it as an insult to Mongol tradition and power. Section 5, Empress Ki. Power, Politics, and Palpable Tension. As Empress, Ki was not content to be a mere figurehead. She wielded considerable political influence. Emperor Togon Timur often seemed more interested in his hobbies, like designing intricate water clocks or supervising palace construction, than in the day-to-day grind of ruling a vast and increasingly troubled empire. This created a power vacuum, and Empress Ki, intelligent and ambitious, was more than willing to step into it. She advised the emperor on state affairs, appointed her allies to key positions, and effectively became a major political force within the Yuan dynasty. Her voice carried weight in the decision-making processes of the empire. One of her most controversial uses of power involved her family back in Goryeo. Empress Ki used her influence to elevate her relatives to positions of immense power and wealth in her homeland. Her father and brothers became dominant figures in the Goryeo court, often acting with impunity. This led to widespread corruption and resentment among the Goryeo aristocracy and populace. While she might have seen it as supporting her family, it destabilized Goryeo and tarnished her image there. Within the Yuan court itself, Empress Ki also promoted Goryeo culture and individuals. She surrounded herself with Goryeo eunuchs and officials, creating a faction loyal to her. This further fueled the resentment of the Mongol elite. They saw her actions as undermining Mongol dominance and promoting foreign interests. The tension between Empress Ki's faction and the established Mongol aristocracy was a constant feature of court politics during her time as empress. She was a shrewd political operator, but her Goryeo origins and her overt exercise of power made her a perennial target for criticism and opposition. Despite the challenges, Empress Ki managed to maintain her influence for many years. Section 6. The Dragon Throne Trembles. Storm clouds over the Yuan. The Yuan dynasty, during Empress Ki's ascendancy, was already showing signs of serious decay. Natural disasters, famine, and peasant uprisings became increasingly common. The Mongol rulers were seen by many Han Chinese as foreign occupiers, and resentment had been simmering for decades. The most significant of these rebellions was the Red Turban Uprising, which began in the 1350s. This movement, fueled by social discontent and millenarian beliefs, spread rapidly across China, posing a direct threat to Yuan rule. The Dragon Throne, once so secure, was beginning to tremble violently under the weight of internal and external pressures. Empress Ki and Emperor Togon Timur faced immense challenges in trying to quell these rebellions and hold the empire together. The Yuan military, once a formidable force, had weakened over time. Internal divisions among Mongol nobles and generals hampered effective responses to the crises. Empress Ki was deeply involved in the political struggles of this period. She supported certain generals and factions, hoping to find a strong leader who could restore order. However, court intrigue often took precedence over unified action. There were power struggles between the Empress, the Crown Prince Ayushiridara, and various Mongol warlords and officials, further weakening the central government. One of Empress Ki's primary concerns during this tumultuous period was ensuring the succession of her son Ayushiridara. She actively campaigned to have him named Crown Prince, which he was in 1353, and then sought to have the aging and increasingly disengaged Emperor Togon Timur abdicate in his favor. This led to further factionalism at court. Some officials supported the emperor, others the Crown Prince, and some had their own ambitions. Section 7. Echoes in History, the Enigmatic End and Enduring Legacy. The end of Yuan dynasty rule in China came in 1368. The rebel forces unified under Zhu Yuanzhang, who would become the Hongwu Emperor, founder of the Ming dynasty, advanced on the capital, Dadu. Faced with inevitable defeat, Emperor Togon Timur, Empress Ki, Crown Prince Ayushiridara, and the remnants of the Yuan court fled north to Shangdu, and then further into the Mongolian steppe. They established what became known as the Northern Yuan dynasty. They had lost China, the richest part of their empire, but they had not been entirely extinguished. The fight for survival continued, albeit in a much reduced capacity. The exact fate of Empress Ki after this retreat is shrouded in some mystery. Emperor Togon Timur died in Yingchang, in modern Inner Mongolia, in 1370, just 2 years after fleeing Dadu. Their son, Ayushiridara, became the Khan of the Northern Yuan. Chinese records offer little information about Empress Ki after the fall of Dadu. Some Korean sources suggest she was captured or went missing around the time of her husband's death. Others imply she continued to live for some years with her son in the north. There is no definitive historical consensus on the year or circumstances of her death, adding an enigmatic final chapter to her dramatic life. Empress Ki's legacy is complex and often controversial. In Chinese history, she is sometimes portrayed negatively as an ambitious foreign woman whose interference in politics contributed to the Yuan dynasty's downfall. Conversely, in some modern Korean popular culture, she has been reimagined as a heroic figure, a Goryeo woman who rose to incredible heights and displayed remarkable strength and intelligence. Ultimately, Empress Ki remains a fascinating historical figure. Her story is a testament to her political savvy, her resilience, and her ambition.